or what you were doing in that regard. And of course, I think most of my backers probably either come through past Facebook or new Facebook, or they're off my emailing list. I get very few. I think I get some off of Facebook itself, and I probably get like one off of Twitter if I'm lucky. I don't consider Twitter or Blue Sky or Instagram very useful at all. But so I guess my question would be what you're doing with your mailing list.
Yeah, I have utilized it from the first campaign that didn't fund. I had those. That's for me. Lucky, I still have access to that. And then using the first and now the second and third Kickstarter, kind of using those email lists, and even for people that buy the first book on my personal site, or at least my big cartel, there have been a few there that are brand new that I'm also kind of putting into the fray. So in itself, at least I'm seeing that at least in the Kickstarter environment, you're able to kind of I'm able to get the bulk of the backers to kind of move with me. So but it hasn't. It's grown a little bit, but not enough. I mean, and it could also be just like the current environment that's going on right now, within the U.S. and worldwide, which compared to a year ago, it's a totally different ballgame right now. So I know that a lot of people are like holding back, but then again, there are other Kickstarter campaigns that are funding incredibly fast and with a lot of money. So there is money out there. People are willing to do it. It's just how to channel and get into that particular, I guess, revenue stream, for lack of a better word.
What are you using for your email platform? Are you using like MailChimp, StreamYard, or not StreamYard? What's that other one?
Substack is the one we use.
Yes, thank you.
I was using BackerKit.
We use that one too.
BackerKit launch.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all you've been using is just BackerKit.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
Okay. Do you go to Comic-Cons?
That is what I'm doing. I'll be staying up for next year. So I know that that's a whole separate sort of in real life sort of presence, which in other cases it has helped. But in this particular case, since there's that sort of, I've been in a gap period of no cons for this year, that it has been a challenge. But yeah, I mean, in real life, it's easier to sell, I feel, at least for me personally. But online and being unknown in that aspect, yeah, that's been the challenge of what's the right messaging, what's the right sort of image to put up that does the work that most other things usually do online.
Do you do videos besides like this? Like, do you do videos on your own, like Facebook Lives? Because as you said, it's easier to sell in person. Do you do anything where you can like talk to?
Yeah, Facebook Lives is the one definitely that I have not leveraged as much as I could. Which I should definitely make more of a habit to kind of put that
Shouldn't
in.
we all?
Oh, yeah, because you look at David Finch, who's like religiously on Monday night, and that has grown exponentially. It's more of just trying to figure out, okay, what day of the week works for me, and then kind of doing that, which is oddly enough, I do that every night when I have to pencil and work on pages, but I need to kind of break something in between there, or anything time that I'm allowed to show something, and use that for the live. But yeah, I'll definitely gonna try to push that more into my daily routine.
Mm-hmm.
It works. Thanks.
Does anybody else have any clarification questions?
Have you tried sending out press releases?
Yes, I do work with Liz Fulda of Sphinx PR. So we've been hitting quite a lot, but we have noticed that there's a big between a year and this year, because of everything that's been going on. It's been harder to get the press releases out and live. Plus, there's also been a much more, dare I say, bombardment of Kickstarters than a year ago. So you're now having to kind of get you got to get through that initial filter to then start with the real filter that you want to go through. So that's been a challenge.
Okay. Anybody else? Good. Mike, would you like to continue where you were, where I stopped you?
No. By all means. Yeah, no. So that's something that James and I have been talking about doing, where we're actually advertising on the Comics News websites, and they have sponsored posts. Read Pop offers them in the Popverse, and Comics Beat offers them as well too, having a sponsored post. I can't tell you if it's going to be good or not, but it's definitely something we haven't done yet. It beats trying to. We do get coverage in Bleeding Cool, which is awesome. We've gotten to have a good connection with him. We're trying to get a connection with Heidi at Comics Beat, which is who we went through, even though I've kind of known her for a while. But that's a good way to at least get on their radar with a lot of this stuff right off the bat. And then, maybe we're hoping that organically we'll be up on those Comic News websites, thanks to this as well too. So we'll see how it goes. No guarantees.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Ben, do you have anything?
I guess, well, one thought is running your email list off of BackerKit seems like a mistake to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think BackerKit's fine for, like, if you're just trying to push people to your Kickstarter and tell them it's live, but it's not really a design to do like a weekly update newsletter on what you're up to and things like that. So I actually use SendFox for most of my emails, and then I have Substack as a backup, because I get a little better open rate with SendFox than I do with Substack. But I try to go back and forth between when I'm live on a campaign with both, just in the hopes that one will reach something that another sends to spam. But yeah, so you might consider doing Substack is free. SendFox has a one-time low-cost fee for a fairly large number of emails. So you might want to think about whether you should try having a different email service for your we didn't ask. I guess I should have, how often you email out. You want to be trying to email out. The theory I've been taught, everything I've learned, I know I've been taught, is that you should try to email out on a regular basis, and even when you're not campaigning, so people are used to seeing your email. So of course that means you got to think of interesting stuff other than trying to sell people, so people are interested in what you got going on. So that adds a degree of work,
Yeah, the theory there is that you don't want to be the friend who's only asking for money or help move furniture.
Yeah.
So what's in terms of the intervals? Are you looking like on a weekly, bi-weekly, or even a monthly basis?
I tend to do it every week or every other week. I don't know if that's not too much. But
I would say starting out every other week's probably a good idea, and that doesn't burn you out right away.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we also tend to do Substack too. I love Substack because I just send out, instead of sending out like, hey, buy my book, it's hey, I saw this online and it made me think about this, and hey, have you ever checked out this new movie that's coming out, or like you can be more article driven versus, sell, and then use the same outlet to then sell.
Yeah, sometimes I'll have, I'll have my upcoming campaign link at the end of the email. And, last week the campaign had ended officially. It's still got late pledge available, but I was basically talking about the 50th anniversary of Jaws, since I do Shark of War.
There you go.
Talked about that.
That's a great, what a great tie-in that is. I mean, everyone loves the movie, everyone's into it. And it's just a great tie-in to what you're doing.
Another one you should use.
Not for nothing. Oh, Sorry.
So I was gonna say another one you should use based on Jaws is complaining how they took it out of Universal and put in Fast and the Furious.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think about that. It's been a while since I've been to any of the theme parks, so I didn't even really wasn't really aware of it.
Yeah, I found that out the hard way a couple of years ago.
Actually, where Jaws is where Jaws was is where Harry Potter now is.
Oh,
Yeah. But not for nothing, you can also export your backer kit list into a CSV file, and you can upload that directly to Substack or whatever email software you're going to use.
Hey, that's good.
As well.
It's good to know.
So when you go and look at like the email, you can actually look at like whatever. Actually, I can probably tell you what the button is called if it loads. Members. There's a thing called members, and if you click on that, there is an action where you can export your list to CSV.
CSV. Got it.
Cool.
Cool. Thanks.
Okay.
And then my other idea for you actually is we do a lot of cross promoting during the campaigns where we, I'll just, send out, emails. I mean, I've sent them to Rob and everybody. Ben and I always actually cross promote each other's things on our right on our Kickstarters. When you do an update, you just put a link, a brief description, maybe a picture right at the bottom of your update. And then they do the same for you. And that's a way of spreading the word as well. And these are people that are already interested in comic book Kickstarters and everything.
Yeah, I did do that more on this time around, and that did kind of give me a nice healthy number.
Yeah.
You pick up a few on each one, but if you're doing 10 of them, it adds up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
JD, do you have anything?
Yeah. Seeing as you're an artist, I think one of the best things you can do, since cartoonist, right? You're an artist. I know, Mike, you said you're an artist as well.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I noticed, one of the strengths that you have, because this is the strength that my wife has, is that you produce your own work, right? And because of that, you don't have that extra cost that the writers in the room just have, right? But on top of that is you guys tend to have more of a community amongst one another, right? Where I know, if you do shows, I know you have artist friends, right? Who are just other artists, or at least I hope you do. Right, because most artists usually hang out together. You know what I mean? They tend to friend one another, and they tend to hang out with one another. And I think what you could do is, I don't know if you have like-minded friends where they want to produce their own work and put stuff out on Kickstarter, where you start promoting each other, right? Doing cross covers, doing cross promotions, doing covers for one another. Because then if you're doing covers for one another, you could just always zero out the sum for one another, right? I got to pay my guys, right? But you can go to another friend of yours who's an artist as well and say, listen, I'll do a cover for you, do a cover for me. And, and then what you could always do is you could do a cover where it like merges your two books together in some strange way, where you have maybe each other's character like peeping through. And then you say, you got to buy my book and his book to get one cover if you want them, right? So you can cross promote that way. So yeah, I think that's something that you might want to look into, being an illustrator. You might want to try that.
Piggybacking off of that, you could also, like with your if you're doing shows and you're streaming live when you're drawing, you could also get together with one of your friends maybe once a week or once every other week and do kind of like a sketch showdown. I know Hasm Productions does that. They like, I think it's every Thursday they have like a Thursday night throwdown where like they have like two other guests and they draw something similar and like see who can what it looks like at the end and stuff like that. And just like pick a theme, boom, you take your take, there's your take, my take, and then they just kind of bullshit.
Yeah, that's what Finch has been doing quite a lot. So I think the one with Bart Sears was probably one of the biggest ones. that he had. That they just like, what are we gonna do? I don't know. Why don't you just draw something? And then I think Bart started it, and then they both started going back and forth on their own versions of it. So yeah, okay, I never can do that. Cool, thanks, guys.
Welcome.
That's what we're here for.
That's why we exist. Yeah.
So, I mean, hopefully that helped.
Yeah, no, did.
Cool. Nice.
So I guess James, you are next in clockwise. So do you and Mike want to tell us what your issue is and how we can help you, sir?
Yeah, so we are moving into, we're going to launch in a week, actually, a Smokey Bear comic, which is completely different from what we normally make. We do a lot of, horror stuff, a lot of sci-fi stuff, for, teens, adults, whatever. This is our first, kids comic that we're doing. So our issue is, how do you market to when your audience is not your target audience? We're going into all new realm here.
I kind of have that problem too, actually. That's one of my problems.
All right. Okay, so does anybody have any kind of clarification questions for James and Mike?
Yeah, I'll go. Are you looking or have started to kind of done research on where to market for that particular target market?
I've looked into it, and the information that I've gotten has not been helpful, I guess, or it's conflicting. So we've done our best, is essentially like I've started doing, targeting like parents. I've started targeting, education and schools and stuff like that. I've even targeted, people who like, going hiking and national parks and everything, who also like comic books. So
That's like
I've started
specific.
Yeah, I mean, just like things like that. But seeing who we should be targeting on this, I'm hoping that's right. We've gotten a bunch of followers on the Kickstarter already, about average for us. So that's good. That's partly our audience already, and partly what we've been able to bring in through like giveaways and targeting on Facebook and everything. So don't know.
Okay. Ben, do you have anything?
Yeah, I've kind of known about this effort is, because it's kind of pretty interesting. Is there any opportunity? I don't know if that's your interest, but to try and get a deal with Scholastic and have them reprint for you, or anything like that, because it seems like this is the kind of book that would be in a school graphic novel section. But if it were
believe it or not, believe it or not, we have talked about that, and we have talked to somebody about doing that. We just need to. We also need to see if our license will allow for that. Because so this is a officially licensed book and everything. What was that?
So it's not public domain?
Nope.
No. Smokey is owned by the U.S. Forest Service.
Oh, okay.
Oh. So we are actually licensing Smokey. We're licensing from the U.S. Forest Service.
That's really actually impressive.
I mean, that's a good. That's
kind of interesting.
That's a good stuff right there, actually.
JD, do you have anything?
Yes. Have you tried promoting it to, let's say, like groups like Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts, because I think those would probably be the types of groups that maybe you can get a little bit more reach. The other place would be people do outdoor stuff, right? I mean, outdoorsmen, those types of places. You know, not being someone who likes nature. You know,
It's like, I'm from New York, nature bird here.
Yeah, I like concrete. All right, it's very firm. But seriously, I mean, if you tried reaching like any of those, like the Boy Scouts of America, even the Girl Scouts of America, to try to promote it to them, because I think that would be something they'd be really interested in.
It's amazing because both of my kids are Scouts, and I didn't even think about that.
But you did know. Wow, that's crazy. I was expecting you to say yes, because I feel like you did. Aren't we talking to Scouting America?
We are talking to Scouting, but for something totally different.
Oh, really? Oh man, I had no idea. I was like, no, all right. You're like, oh, we got a meeting with Scouting America. I'm like, oh yeah, you got this, man. Good job. All right.
Yeah.
JD, you just opened the whole door.
I mean,
yeah. I was just trying to help. Try to help.
But see, look, you got your foot in the door there already, apparently.
Exactly. There you go.
Mm-hmm. That's funny. Okay. So have you reached out to any other indie creators who have kids books? Because there are quite a few of us.
Mm-hmm.
And we, I'm sure there are probably plenty of us who might be willing to share out to our audience. But also, have you asked them for like digital bonuses to help with the campaign too? Because that's something that you probably could use if you unlock things.
Through our comics launch group, we've gotten the digital the giveaways and stuff for that lined up.
Okay.
But otherwise, I haven't reached out to very many kids comics creators, because I don't know very many kids comics creators.
Well, Tyler
don't underestimate the book.
It seems like it'd be the obvious choice from ones I know, but
right. Yeah, I was gonna say don't underestimate the books too, because it doesn't have to be just comics.
Yeah,
when it comes to kids, comics books, they kind of live in that same, picture books basically.
Gotcha.
So like Ben said, there's the C is for Cthulhu. I have the Wolfpack Pups. Moana has her books for that you could probably use too. Just have to reach out.
Are you allowed to do like coloring books or as part of it, or make a Smokey Bear stuffed animal or something like that? Or
no, the license
limited on this kind of stuff.
Yeah, the license is literally for the comic book. I actually just yesterday got the addendum to allow us to do a bookmark as a giveaway.
Oh, can't do stickers or posters.
Yeah, so we got the postcards, the bookmark, and stickers.
Okay.
We're allowed to add on either for a fee or for a giveaway, a stretch goal.
Yeah. I would think a smoky plush would do well.
It would do really, really well, but then we have to design it.
You know how many smoky plushes there
make them, and
yeah, tariffs.
So
let me just warn anybody right now. Ben, I know you have like your shark, but they're not very detailed. Whereas like when you go into things like this right now with the tariffs, that was an extra $1,000 I wasn't expecting.
Oh wow.
So what's the tariff now? 30%?
I don't know. It goes up and down. Like it just.
Where are you getting the tariff? Where are you getting it from?
China, probably, right?
China charged me, and then supposedly they gave it to the U.S.
I think it's gonna be. I don't think it's gonna be 30. I think they made a deal. It might be 25 or 20. I mean, But yeah,
Still a
either way.
lot.
Yeah,
No,
it's been up and down so much. It was for me. It was like whenever the ship date happened was when it hit me.
Right.
So whatever that was, they're like, boom, there it is. So it was a dartboard. But books are still good though.
Yep.
Books are still good.
Mm-hmm.
Look, have you reached out to comic librarians?
Librarians is one that I have been trying to reach out to, yes. But I don't know if librarians are going to go for a Kickstarter rather than, like, ordering it more direct.
Yeah, that's the tricky part for this, right? Is that our business models are all start with Kickstarter because that's where we make our money.
Mm-hmm.
But for something like this, we're in discussions with a publisher, and he's like, "Great, when you have enough issues put together to make something big, let's talk." And
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
We won't be ready for a graphic novel for another year yet. So
right.
Okay. Does anybody else have any more clarification questions? Because I'm sure we all have a lot to give advice on.
No, I think we're good.
Okay. All right. Ben, do you have any advice that you would like to share, sir?
Well, I'm not sure I have anything great. Obviously, James does really well. Obviously the audience for the zombie cheerleaders is probably not necessarily the ones who will buy this book. But you still have managed to get 400 people for your to hit the button for the pre-launch, which is awfully good, I think. The only thing I can think of is, if you can maybe do maybe a contest or something for a giveaway, but then you can't give away much. So I'm not sure what you would give away for the smoke.
we did the giveaway actually to help bolster the people following the project. We did a giveaway. I got some stuff off of Amazon, Smokey related, like a shirt like this one.
Okay. And you sent them to your email list, or you got them to go to the
Yeah, we got them to the email list, but we also offered an incentive for signing up for the Kickstarter.
Okay. So
you notify me on the Kickstarter. So
using King Sumo, right? I assume. Or
yep.
Okay. Well, that's the main thing I can think of right now. I'm afraid. Well, I guess one thing is everybody advertises on Facebook. I'm wondering if there might be some alternate advertising venues for this, like maybe a YouTube influencer who focuses on kids videos or something like that. And that could be pretty expensive. I was looking at one of the comics YouTube channels once, and it was $1,000, and I was like, that's a lot for not knowing.
Yeah.
Not knowing whether it's going to go anywhere, but so.
I'm actually wondering if we can get
but
groups, maybe.
This seems like it.
Yeah, mommy blogs are a good one.
Yeah, it seems like the kind of thing that needs it might be an opportunity for a non-traditional advertising method. Of course, how many of those people would be willing to go to Kickstarter then is an open question. But
right.
I guess the question I forgot to ask is, how far along is this first issue? Is it done? Are you able to share it? Okay, so that's like going to like the mommy blogs. You can send the digitals to them to have them preview, or to the influencers, just to kind of give them something to like talk about. Get that way they're like, oh, this is great. Go to this thing, back it. It's amazing. That kind of stuff. Because if you can get them to buy on, like usually that's a big help. And you can use them for pull quotes too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if you have, but there's a good website called Kids Comics Unite that actually has a pretty good community for that. I was on a podcast with what's her name, with Jenna not too long ago. She's one of the founders, and actually it's a pretty good community. They might be able to kind of help you out, because that's literally what they do is like kids comics and getting those creators and that whole community and getting stuff out. Be worth a shot to kind of dig over there and kind of have a chat with them because I was on another podcast not too long, about a month ago, with her and another person I was doing just kids comics, and we ended up talking a little bit afterwards. So that definitely would probably be a good venue to kind of to explore and see what they might be able to offer some more advice and into that particular arena.
Cool. Yeah, just looked at it. It looks cool. I looked at it while you were talking about it.
The internet.
Yeah.
JD, do you have anything?
I think the only other thing I would have to add other than the Boy Scouts is the other thing would be if you know any school teachers, right?
I am one.
Oh, well, there you go. So and because I know most school teachers have organizations, that sort of thing. I don't know if you have like your own news groups. Maybe you can put together a newsletter and say, "Listen, I'm offering this up," and maybe it wouldn't be something you offer through Kickstarter, but maybe it's something you could offer as like a classroom thing.
Right?
Like the way Scholastic does. They don't approach it. I wouldn't say send them to a website, but they bring it into the class and be like, okay, I don't know how you're printing. If you're printing offset, if you're going to print 1,000 of them or whatever, and you're going to get them, at a reasonable price per unit, you can let them go for like $4 or $5 a book to the kids, and then and go from there. And then whatever you want to do from there. I'm sure you have to pay your licensor so much, and
I think that's the interesting dilemma in all this, right? I think a lot of our strategies, they're not limited, but we might feel they're limited because it's a Kickstarter for something that's not traditionally like people, we're all in the know on Kickstarters, and I think people in the industry are in the know. But people, like you said, school teachers, how do you break that barrier with them where they're like, I don't understand. Why are we raising money?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like the catch-22 with kids books and kids comics is that like parents usually are like, when they're buying something for their kid, it's like right then, right now, and they're giving it to the kid. Right. That's like, when in Kickstarter, people are usually buying for themselves.
Yeah.
Because what kid's going to wait 6 months for a comic book to come out? So that is the catch-22 with it. But you guys also have the benefit that like every single adult out there knows who Smokey the Bear is.
Right.
Yes.
So like we've all grown up with him. I mean, like even if you don't really know a lot about him, you've seen a commercial. You know what he's about.
And Rob, I have to pause for 1 second because I have to yell at you because I was yelled at. It's just Smokey Bear.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
The Bear.
It's just Smokey Bear.
It's one of those things
Just
where it's
Smokey
like
Bear.
when we go like the Home Depot. That's hilarious, actually.
Yeah, no, it's weird. We've
been
talking and we're like, oh, Smokey the Bear. And then he's like, no.
It's Smokey Bear.
Gotta just say Smokey Bear. And it was he was actually giving us like the heads up because he's like, he said the same thing. And he was like their agent, for their licensing. Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
That's hilarious. It's those things that we've all been, as a generation.
Mandela effect, man.
Yeah. That's funny. But yeah, I mean, still, regardless of how you say it, everybody knows who he is. Everybody knows that yellow hat and them jeans,
Yep.
So yeah, so you have that benefit for one thing, especially if that pops up on Kickstarter. People are like, oh shit, Smokey Bear got himself a comic. I'm going to check this out,
Yep.
It's kind of like that weird, like I said, that weird thing. What's the age range of this? Just out of curiosity. I know you said it's a kid's book, but like that still varies ridiculously.
I would say definitely elementary school age, probably like the younger. I would even go younger grades. I'd say kindergarten through third, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Then I would say, definitely like reach out like to Tyler to like me. I would be happy to share that when I'm going to be shipping. These are coming in like this week, so like I'm going to be shipping these out. So I'll be doing an update. So like I'd be happy to put it out there. I'm sure Tyler.
I'll send you a message tomorrow.
Yeah, Matt and Steph from In Symmetry, they have a kids book they put out. You know, like I said, like this, just reach out to others. You know, that's kind of gonna be a big help, especially the ones who've already kind of did the work on this kind of situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, not just sharing out through campaigns, but sharing out through newsletters. You know, and say, hey, we'd be happy to, you know, put yours in our newsletter, and if you put in our, you know, that's also a big help.
Well, that's
too.
what we usually do. That's what we, you know, always do. It's usually a trade.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, you know, like I said, some people will be like, yeah, like for me, like obviously I don't have a campaign or anything running. I'd be happy to throw it out there for you.
Cool.
So, you know, there's cases like that. You know, it is a tough situation with kids' books, but it can be done. I mean, for the Wolfpack Pups, I think I did 3 or 4 campaigns that I got just across the finish line, but I got it there. Not like, you know, with the comic books, obviously that's usually like a drop in the bucket. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Gotcha.
Cool. Appreciate it though. That's great.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's one of those things that I'm gonna give you a heads up though. Kids books, it's a grind to the end. It's not like you're gonna ride the coattails once it funds in like 2 days. You know, it's gonna be one of those you got to keep going. So pull every trick out of the hat. Like I said, if you need a book, you can use my digital. You know, for Wolfpack Pups. You know, or whatever. Like any kind of incentives you can get.
Absolutely.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything?
No.
Yeah, I mean it's a challenge because you have Kickstarter, but then you also have physical, and there's a lot of stuff that can happen when you have the physical. But we're talking about, you know, Kickstarter. It's more. I was thinking just off the top of my head from a marketing perspective, maybe reaching out to sort of the local newspapers within areas that are known to have bears and stuff like that, or where Smokey Bear has been known to be popular for a very long time, and kind of reaching out to there. The local newspaper is always looking for something, and I think that could be where it could help. You know, it'd be something new because I'm just thinking about it right now, and because it's licensed officially, I think that kind of gives you a little bit more of a legitimate presence. I think that helps out a lot.
I know you said that you can't just do like coloring books, right? You can't, so you couldn't just do like a digital coloring book to go along with it.
No, well, every piece of art also has to be approved for it. So for like this Kickstarter would be way too late. Maybe for the next Kickstarter we could.
Well, what about the approved art already? Like I'm sure you had line art already approved, right? Could you potentially so what I did with my Wolfpack Pups is I took all of the art from the book and just used the line art without the lettering and made that the coloring book that's a digital bonus that people would just print out and color.
I wonder if we could do that. I think you could probably do that.
It's not a bad idea.
I mean, it's existing artwork that's already been approved.
Yeah,
right?
Everything's already approved, and that's part of our purview.
We need to get approval for that either.
Yeah,
in terms of like a coloring book, it could just kind of be a thing, you know.
Well, that and like I was thinking because one, you're a teacher and you could talk to the Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts. You could do an event or go to an event like and just print out some line art pages with the URL or even like a QR code on the paper for kids to color, you know, and just kind of give a quick blurb, and then it's live from here to here, QR code scan, and then so the kids color it, put it up on the parents' refrigerator, and the parents are like, oh, what's this? Scan that QR code and go to the thing, right?
Mm-hmm. The only thing I'll say about that is that it's summer, and you know.
But that's just it right now.
And
right. But you do have Boy Scouts. Yeah. Wow. They don't have summer things, no events going on.
No, the at least not for my kids. They don't really do much over the summer.
Okay.
Yeah,
Fair.
there's stuff we can do though. But that's it. These are all good ideas because again, we're going to be doing multiple ones of these anyway. So
Yeah. Good for the future.
yeah, for sure.
Just not in a week.
What, you don't have any fairs coming up this summer?
No.
I'm actually on vacation right now.
You see this guy, Mike?
He doesn't want to put his work in, man.
He's not
It's
doing any
terrible.
work here.
When you do get it published, or at least it printed up, take a look. There's a chain in California called Big Bear Diner. You might be able to kind of do maybe a cross promotion of the book because they always have a little store at the beginning with all bear related items. Could be worth exploring.
We'll look that up later. Yeah, we I mean, for after the Kickstarter, we actually have a Smoky Bear catalog that goes out to like all the national parks and everything, and you know that's where they order all of their stuff from. So we're going to be in that catalog. We're already it's already set that we are going to be in the winter catalog for that.
Interesting.
So
Very
it's
nice.
just yeah.
Are you prohibited?
Like I said, it's the post Kickstarter where we're looking okay on. I think it's the
Yeah, it's gonna be one of those
Kickstarter
cases you
itself.
might have to be like, money up front. Let's hope that pays off.
Yeah. Basically, it is. Yeah.
And you only have the
Yeah.
licensing for making a book. You can't do posters or anything else outside of
Yeah,
that.
no, we'd have to add an addendum to the thing, and it was
It's not an obstacle, but it's an obstacle, right?
Yeah.
It's something that they
Right.
might be able to do, but then it's you have
They
to go.
say dance like
It's
dance.
not something you can just kind of do. You know.
like we got the bookmark and the postcards approved because it's going to be related to the book, sort of thing.
So you couldn't use like cover art for a poster then.
Well, that's what we're doing. I mean, that's what we're doing for the postcards. We're just using the cover art for the postcards.
I thought you could do 11 by 17s with the same art.
Mhm.
It's a big postcard. That's all.
Print.
It's the same artwork on paper. That's all that it is.
There you
The
go.
size doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
These are not the droids you're looking for.
No. Mm-mm.
No. Yeah. Definitely get it approved though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, don't
Don't
mess
need to get
around.
the license taken away.
Yeah.
Are you guys able to publish in other languages?
Yes, I believe we can. We have the worldwide rights and everything for it, even though I don't think anybody outside of the U.S. is going to buy it.
Well,
They're
so
like,
that's,
what
Everyone
is this
outside the U.S.
Smokey
knows
Bear?
who Smokey is.
well, that's the thing. That's the thing. Because like, if you look into particular Japanese pop culture, they love to digest the stuff that we have that's termed Americana. Smokey Bear falls under that immediately. It's just a matter of changing the title Japanese and adding a few other things here and there. And I think you got a leeway into there. It's really, they like to absorb the Americana and then they kind of put their own spin on it and then adopt it as their own. But the source itself still comes from that. That would be something I would definitely take a look into, at least in a long term. And you guys already have the worldwide, right? So it's be worth taking a look at least on that aspect. Any place that still looks at the Americana culture of the U.S., anything present. I think you can probably kind of get a leeway in there because westerns and stuff Americana is still pretty.
That's hilarious because like our youth is eating up their manga and their youth is eating up our.
Because I was watching this video that there's like in Tokyo, there's like a group of greasers, and they're going off from like the 1950s style, but it's very warped, and for us, it's very Cowboy Bebop-ish in terms of the look, but that inspired Cowboy Bebop, and it's just a plethora of pop culture, like this whole subculture. They have even like what's it like Chicano culture, which is actually very interesting. From the cars to the look, it's comes from there, but then they turn it Japanese, and they love that Americana, the 1950s to 1960s sort of era. Flintstones is one of the, and Jetsons, Smokey Bear. I think those kind of fall in. It's just a matter of changing it just a bit here and there, but I think you might have something there in the long run. Something to think about.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. So hopefully that helped. I don't know if it did.
Thank you.
All right, good. So Ben, are you ready?
Yeah, I don't know that my problems are that different than a combination of Amin's and James's. I seem to be locked up to, where I can get 150 backers or thereabouts, and I can get $3,500 to $4,000, each time for my books. It's probably been the way it's been the last 8 or 9 Kickstarters, and I seem to have capped. And part of my problem, I think, is that I do 3 books right now that are kind of different than each other. Shark of War, Vicious Vixens, which is in the same kind of a spin-off of Shark of War, but it's very much it's a more of a girl book. And then Samson, of course, which is a superhero book, and it's also involves a Jewish superhero, and that brings its own baggage in terms of some of the response. But so there's not necessarily where I get all the backers from one book to go to the other book, and also I seem to cap out on the number of backers. I get a chunk returning always. I get and then I get some new backers to replace the ones who've dropped off. So I still make my goal, but it's still kind of tight, and it's still not growing the way I'd like it
to. All right. Does anybody have any questions for Sir Ben?
Yes. Do you? Because I figured nobody else is asking, so I figured I'd just jump in. So, I mean, obviously, one of the things I've run across, right? I do my Sunday show. I talk to a lot of creators who do this show. A lot of us are stuck on Facebook. Some of us are stuck on Twitter, right? And are we looking, and have you been looking in new spaces? Because unfortunately, I mean, like, we're all stuck, right? It's not just you. I know I am. I can't speak for Robert or for anybody else, but what I've seen for most is that we're stuck in these little holes that we place ourselves in, right? And we tell each other, "Oh, go to conventions, right? And go this way." But have you tried Blue Sky? Have you tried Reddit? Have you tried these other platforms? Even DeviantArt. Who knows?
I haven't tried Reddit. I've tried Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram. Kind of almost given up on Instagram because they won't let you put a live link up unless you pay.
Not without paying for it.
Yeah, and Facebook a lot. I do go to cons, fairly regularly on the different cons in the South Carolina, Florida, North Carolina, Georgia area that I kind of live in. In fact, I'm going to go to a con in 2 weeks in Florida. So yeah, I try to do the cons. I do some giveaways and some ads. I'm never sure enough whether I'm getting anything much out of the giveaways and ads. More recently I've been doing a lot more podcasts with different comic book people. I've done for Samson, I did more probably than I've done ever before. I probably did 5 or 6 during the course of the campaign. I also hit up a bunch of people for reviews because I think that's the kind of book you need. You need like positive reviews of, saying it's a book of quality rather than a book with attractive art or attractive female characters, for some example. So that's been a lot of what I've done. One time I tried to do something with Google banner ads, and it was very hard. I think I need to understand more about how to use Google banner ads.
Google's a lot harder than Facebook.
Yeah, one time I got the ads to work, and it looked like a lot of people looked at them for the price I paid, but not many people click on them. So you get a ton of views, many thousands more than you do for Facebook, but you probably the click-through rate is a minute fraction. So I didn't see a lot from that. At some point, I'd probably like to try that again, maybe. But yeah, so I have to admit, for Samson, I also went to a con in New York that was a Jewish con, and I printed up a bunch of little mini comic books and packed them into the backer rewards for Samson. So I mean, not for Samson, for my other books to try, to try and get them to look at the mini comic that I printed up, kind of like a basically double-sided pages, photocopy paper folded together to make a little, almost like a zine style comic book, a half-size comic book that I could do for fairly cheap. I think it cost me, a quarter a copy, because I stapled them all together myself and folded them all, and very, art shoppy. Yeah, I'm stuck on ideas for beyond that. Obviously, like I mentioned, I email about Jaws, but for Shark Week, I always have a giveaway, shark-related giveaway. Same for Christmas.
Now, another question is your concern revenue generation primarily through Kickstarter, or just revenue generation in general?
I'm more interested in having, not so much maximizing revenue, but I'd like to have as many backers as possible.
Audience growth.
Yeah, I'd like audience growth. I think is more.
Okay.
I'm not desperate for money. I'm in a pretty decent place where I can fund myself if I have to. In terms of being fortunate enough to have enough money to fund myself when I want to fund myself. But yeah, I would definitely like to grow my audience more, have a bigger audience. Be one of those people who get 300 or 400 backers. Obviously, it'd be nice if I had one other thing I didn't mention is my backer a dollar amount per backer is probably on the lower side. I usually average in the low 20s, and I see some campaigns, they get 150 people and they got $7,000 or 10 grand.
Those are also probably generating from covers that are either very limited or have assets.
I guess I was going to ask too is what are the big ticket items, because that's how another way you can not, you want to increase backer number obviously, but dollar amounts go up with higher ticket items.
Yeah,
I always offer a few be in the book kind of tiers, and I usually get a few takers for that. Those are my highest dollar tiers. I'm always trying to bundle my collection, of all my books, because I've now got one hardcover and 8 or 9 issues now of floppies, which total 14 comic books, because the hardcover is 5 books, that I try to bundle, and I try to do it at a really reasonable price. I was basically advertising that I'd sell everybody my back issues at the same price I sell them at a Comic-Con for, because I wanted to get people to get my back issues, and it didn't work nearly as well as I'd hoped.
Yeah, that's kind of like, you kind of have to do it in a way that like you can't, like on Kickstarter, people were there looking for like the premium stuff that they're not going to really see at a con.
Yeah.
I think that's why a lot of people with like maybe like 150 backers and they're like almost 10K or more, because they're generally like they have a dozen covers and you can only get half of them through that campaign. And then after that, they're done. Right. You're never going to see them again. So they're extremely limited, and people will then drop hundreds to get every single one of those for that specific campaign there. Right. So that's kind of, they're basically playing the limited edition game, whether it's a metal or just, like a 10 print variant. But before we get further into that, I did have a question, as far as like your newsletter, did you? So like you talk about Shark of War very often in your newsletter. It's mostly that, and then you occasionally like mention your new stuff here and there. Like you kind of sprinkle that up before like those particular launches, but the main focus is still the Shark book.
Right.
Do you have lead magnets for all 3 books, or when they sign up for your newsletter, are they just getting like the Shark of War, or
No, I give away the first 2 issues of Shark of War, the first issue of Vicious Vixens, and the first issue of Samson. So
and you're doing that in the same lead magnet?
Yeah, basically my newsletter has the free stuff at the bottom, and so everybody who signs up gets those 4 comic books.
Okay. Have you thought about breaking that up into 3 landing pages? Because then that way, so your problem basically is what you're saying is that like not everybody is coming into these 3 different things, and you can't, you want to build your audience for each of them. Well, you have to think of them as a separate. So have you thought about that?
Not especially, no. I try to get my audiences from one to go to the other. Obviously, I go to my I do an update for my last Vixen's backing and say, hey, Samson is out now, or Shark of War is out now, and vice versa. I haven't tried to, like, when I do advertising, I usually, the landing page offers them all 4 comic books. It doesn't say, this is for Vicious Vixens and this is an ad for, though the ad itself might focus on one of those comics. Usually I focus the ads on either Shark of War, because I sometimes do giveaways for Shark of War and around Shark Week. And for Samson, I think I tried Vicious Vixens once, and the cover, the art I thought would be the bestseller was kind of rejected by Facebook. So I'm not sure it paid for doing that.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything?
Yeah, I have questions for the conventions that you are attending. What are the attendance numbers of those conventions?
Some of them are fairly big. The one here in my local convention, is in a fairly large convention center. It's, it gets thousands of people. I think I do just as well though at the smaller 1-day cons that are, that have fewer people and cheaper entry fees.
Tables.
Yeah.
No celebrities.
Yeah. So it's I probably do the best at my local, at the SC Comic Con here. But I've done pretty well at some of the 1-day cons. Of course, the last 1-day con I went to had I don't think 50 people came through the door. It was the worst con I ever had. I think I sold 1 or 2 books. I'm not even sure I sold any books. I think I just sold a couple of plushies. But it was a nightmare. Turned out there was a competing con in town, and the 2 con people that were running each con hated each other, or something there was some drama going on, and there was sabotage. And I was like,
there's nothing worse than a promoter war.
Yeah. So that was bad. But yeah, most of the cons I don't do Dragon Con. I haven't done Dragon Con or New York Comic Con or any of the biggest cons. The biggest one I've done is Heroes Con in Charlotte, North Carolina. I did that once. It was fine, but again, there was a lot of celebrities there too. I probably did about as well as I did at SC Comic Con, but it's a 3-day show rather than a 2-day show. So the per day wasn't as good, because Friday's a wasted day. So I tend not to be excited about those shows. So I really look for 2-day shows or 1-day shows even.
When I did Heroes Con, Sunday was the wasted day.
Oh, really? Yeah.
No one, like when I say no one showed up that particular day, it was Father's Day. I mean, like,
okay.
That's part of the problem, is like when they put it on a weekend that is a holiday or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably try to do it next year, because I can get there and back every day if I have to, or I have to, or if it's too big a deal to stay one night maybe, but because it's it's an hour and a half to 2-hour drive for me.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah.
But Dragon Con, it's like it's 3 times the cost or so, and then staying in Atlanta, that's a little too far to drive now.
Yeah.
So I kind of avoided that one.
feel like we do good at that, but we can never get a table.
Oh,
Yeah, we've never been able to get a table at Dragon Con.
oh.
We're
I've
in
never
New
been
York,
able to
though.
get into C2E2.
Really?
Yeah, every time I apply, and it's
Oh.
yeah.
I kind of like
Oh,
to
I
go
thought
there.
we
We do
gotten in last year.
C2E2. We do New York Comic Con. C2E2 is easy for us to get into. There's like no competition for us to get into C2E2.
We get in now. They're lacking now. They're miss. Yeah, they'll take you. I'm telling you.
Oh, I may I may want to try it. It's a long trip, but I can't combine it with a vacation because a lot of people there I know kind of on the community seem to do C2E2, so that'd be kind of cool just to do it for that reason. How do you do it C2E2? Is it sales?
Used to do really well.
Used to do. I mean, last time we were there, I mean, we overspent on the booth, I think, and it just. I think cons in general, especially the big cons, people are going there to see the celebrities, and they're not, you know, they don't have the disposable income that they had, you know.
The last couple
and
of years,
pre-COVID too. Pre-COVID, we did really well, but
Yeah, since COVID, we have not done well at the big cons.
people have money now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, does anybody else have any more questions, or shall we offer Ben up some advice?
All right.
Good.
Let's go.
Okay. James, do you have anything good for Ben?
I mean, the only thing that I can think of is maybe getting, a name to do some, a named artist to do some covers or something for you.
Yeah, I was considering that for Vicious Vixens. I know what's her name, Carissa Grant. She she has that. I don't know if you follow her because she's kind of in some of our
She does the Worthy Chaos.
Yeah, she hired some artists to do a cover for one of her books. Who does very good at Pretty Girls and did a popular cover for that, and I think it really helped her sales. I mean, she paid a lot for it too.
Yeah, I was gonna say she did pay for a lot for that, but she also squeezed that cover with a lot of different variant types of it. Like she did metal, she did different area. She did a lot with that particular cover.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily have to be an expensive, oh my God, they're like the top guy at Marvel type, person.
Yeah.
It just has to be an artist that has a big following on, Instagram,
Kickstarter.
Twitter, whatever, that is going to help you promote it.
Right.
I used Greg Bow once, and
Yeah.
he's a nice guy and stuff, but I don't think I got and he did a nice cover, but I don't think I got a huge return out of it for the price.
We use Greg Bow all the time.
Yeah, I know that's.
But you didn't do a nude version of that.
No, I did not.
Yeah, so that's.
He's
Known
the
for
idea,
doing
but
the safe and non-safe.
Yeah, I've toyed with that idea, but that's one thing I haven't decided I wanted to do yet. It's kind of I know a lot.
In that same vein, I would say, there are artists who do specifically that are affordable, who do very sexy women stuff, like Chris Williams. He's a good example. I use him all the time, and he's affordable. He's well known. He does share. And he's well known on Kickstarter too. Like for you, if you're going to be doing a variant on Kickstarter, look and see the popular artists on Kickstarter who not only do, you want the ones who can do, who do sell, safe for work, since that's what you're going for, but who can still draw attractive women.
Right.
Amin, do you have anything to add or to give advice?
Yeah, I'm one thing that's been helping me slowly is that for the Kickstarters, the books that I'm offering, only those Kickstarter books have 6 extra pages of artwork story, and you don't get that anywhere else. Let it be in the future. That's one thing I've made it very, very, very clear. So even if I get picked up from a publisher, you're never going to see that those pages are artwork. And that has become sort of that FOMO, I guess, angle that I'm slowly seeing that people really are going for. With the second Kickstarter, because they knew about what happened with the first one. I think a lot of I had a lot of people jumping on over more than I expected because they knew that if I do not get this one, I'm never going to see the extra story that's only in these editions. And
so you're doing like a little bonus story book.
Yeah. It's within the story with the overall story. I ended up doing some sort of side story, which I enjoyed, and then as I started getting feedback, a lot of people were kind of like, okay, what the fuck was that? like okay, you had me with the main story, but you had this other thing, like what the hell? And so I'm kind of using that now to kind of like, okay, if you're going to back on Kickstarter, you're going to get this with this, but if you see me at a convention, you're not going to get that. Unless I happen to have extra copies of that. Other than that, you're not going to. So
you're printing 2 different books then for each.
Yeah. There's the ones I have for Kickstarter, which has its own, and then there's the other ones that I have for the convention. Okay. If I happen to have overstock of the Kickstarter stuff, then yeah. If you know and you're aware and you ask, I'll be more than happy to give you one. But if you don't, I will give you the other one. It is a risky sort of investment because you are printing 2 versions of a book.
Well, that and as a writer, he would be paying artists for extra pages.
Yeah, and you're also paying for extra pages on your printing too.
In my case, it's since I am writing and illustrating, I got that covered. In your case, then that's something that you have to kind of think into before you do your production, but you could probably be where, at least for a good 5-6 years, you don't release it. And then you kind of let it out of the bag that, okay, you know what? Everyone's been asking about this for a long time. I'm tired of hearing you guys. Boom, here's the Kickstarter of just that. It's a long-term sort of vision. But you already have sort of that built up. That could be the big payoff unexpectedly for those that aren't aware and those that are not watching the stream. And it's just like a marketing thing that you just kind of you play with it, and as things get to that point, then that'll be your big payoff. Kind of like Infinity War Endgame, because if things didn't work out, that was never going to happen, but it did, and that became the big payoff. And there's ways to kind of work around. I think people like it's the exclusivity and something that's unique and being able to say, oh, look what I got that you don't have. And it's for those of us that remember CDs, it's like I think when the infamous Nirvana CD, for instance, where did you hear that track at the end? Which one are you talking about? No. What? Oh yeah, you gotta wait. There's a gap, and not every CD had it, and there was no way to find out if you had it or not. It's just you ended up either stealing somebody else's CD or trying to find some way to find it. But it's that sort of exclusivity works out where people like, hey, you start to create another, I guess, loyal readership with that, because they're going to be interested on that other storyline and continue it, and it gives you opportunities to experiment as well.
Okay, thanks.
Mike, do you have anything for Ben?
I'm a big Substack guy. I think building your audience starts with kind of building yourself, out to them. So I think that would be that would be the direction I head is, and you do that already. So I think you do a good job of that. Have you tried? I know we're done with questions, but it just popped in my head. They have that new like that shadow. What do they call it, James? The secret reward. The secret reward.
Oh yeah, the secret reward for Kickstarter. Yeah.
Yeah, I
popped in my head when Amin was talking about being exclusive. That might be something you toy with. Mm-hmm. Go with the exclusive reward.
Yeah, I tried that with the backers of Samson 1. Basically, I was trying to give them a secret reward to not only back Samson 2, but get a secret reward because it included all the other non-Samson issues. So they didn't have to buy Samson 1, but they could get a bundle with all my comic books but Samson 1. So I don't know if it helped me much, if at all, but that was the only secret reward I tried. my featured reward was basically was all the copies of all the covers for issue 2, for example, was my featured reward this time, and I think that probably helped a little.
We've actually been doing like a retailer reward as our secret reward.
Oh, I did that for
it's slightly less, and they get like 5-10 copies, whatever.
Yeah, I did that when I put out the Sharkabore Volume 1, the hardcover. I wasn't sure the retailers would be interested in in my floppies, so I haven't really focused on trying to do a retailer award. I haven't been involved, and I only had the backer who took the retailer award. Actually, he runs the gift shop at an aquarium, so he wanted Sharkabore to put in his aquarium, and I had pictures. He sent me pictures of it in the aquarium gift shop, and I thought that was so great. I was like so stoked.
Nice.
That's cool.
That kind of opens up another question of like, or at least for that particular book, have you reached out to different gift shops and at different aquariums?
No, I haven't really.
You already have an in with that particular person. Kind of like you almost have that official seal of approval that you can be like, hey, I'm already featured over here. I mean, it could be something to look at.
That is interesting. Yeah, make a note of that. I haven't really tried to get into more stuff. Now that I've got the book, I kind of listed it on Amazon, but I haven't really done anything with it or pushed it at all. I'm basically just selling it at cons and is part of my Kickstarter rewards packages and add-ons.
All right. Cool. I am, but going back to my thought earlier about splitting the 3, I definitely think if you want to build them separately and build an audience, that you need to have a landing page per book. Because
that would just be for the ads, right? I mean, or would I be sending out an email, a newsletter focused on each?
Well, audience? I mean, you have the main. Depending on what you're using aside from Substack, because I don't really know much about Substack, but I do know that I use MailChimp, and you're able to segment.
Right.
Right. And so
can't do that on Substack.
Yeah. No. So then this would be more of a lead magnet. So Substack is your main.
SendFox is mine, and I can do some of that. It's not as, because it's free. It's not quite as nice as MailChimp. It's more clunkety, but you can form like a list of these contacts and a list of these contacts and mail to them. So you can do some of that.
So obviously Substack, you can do the bulk of everything and kind of talk, and then you can take from each of those buckets and put it in your Substack. Mm-hmm. But when you want to specifically blast for one thing and build up that audience, I still would suggest that's the power of still being able to have, another type of mail, client. Yeah. Because you're able to do like your welcome series, your stuff like that. Because by doing that, you're able to then say, this audience only wants this, so I'm going to build this. Then I'm going to put them in my regular Substack newsletter, talk to them. Now I'm going to go back over here and just mail them, stuff about this book when I'm ready to, or here's updates. Here's an update on this book. Then go to the other one, say, here's an update on this book. Go to the other one. Here's an update in this book. Yeah. That way you're curating your audiences separately, because that's something like we all want the easy path, right? We want to make it so that everybody we have in our audience reads everything we do. But the truth of it is, no matter what you do, I have 3 werewolf books. I have Nightwolf, Snowpaw, and the Wolfpack Pups. Do you want to know how much the crossover is?
I assume it's probably pretty good between Nightwolf and Snowpaw, but probably not as good. Oh, really?
50%. Only 50% back both books for Nightwolf and Snowpaw. And that's 2 werewolf books with the same character in the book. Now, difference is probably one, different art styles. The other is time period versus modern. One's more fantasy, one's more horror, right? But in the essence, it's the same world building.
Yeah.
It's the same mythology that I've been building. It's the same. It's the character. It's her origin. You know, again, that's and JD and Daphne have the same situation.
Yep.
They have several books that are that sort of furry-ish related.
Fantasy.
Right.
Fantasy as well.
They're all fantasy books, and they're the crossover between, let's say, Tall Tales, Eagle Raven, and Oswald. She did some cleaning up of some of the metrics. It's about 40%, but you would think it'd be a little bit higher. But between Tall Tales and Oswald, it's a little bit higher. But roughly it's about 40% between the three titles.
Yeah, and then with Wolfpack Pups, I mean that's more like very, very little, like less than 100 people.
In fact, what Rob is mentioning is actually, if you go into more the corporate world, that is very, very sort of de facto way of doing it. You have your product, let's say Apple, and you have all your different other products. Each of those will have its own landing page, even though they are all under Apple. And each of them also have their own marketing teams and marketing campaigns that go out to very specific segments in order to kind of obviously bring people in. Nowadays it is a little bit easier for them to get people in terms of numbers, but even at their level, they still want to continue growing. And how do they keep expanding out, especially on a brand that's been out for quite some time? But having it separated like that, what like Rob and JD said, yeah, you don't have a lot of people that kind of go over one to the other, but you are expanding out those particular arms into those different pies in order to kind of bring them in. And eventually you could do like crossovers and whatnot and have them go over, and just to play around and see how that works. But at least you're not limiting yourself, you're expanding out. And who knows if one of those actually becomes the one that kind of gives you the number of backers that you're looking for, that's only going to help feed the other two. But separating like that kind of gives you that more of that opportunity. It is a little bit more work, but in thinking it long term, I think you'll probably get a much better return on investment.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, JD or anybody, does anybody else have anything to add for Ben?
Unfortunately, I got the same problem as Ben. So that's why revenue, I might have been able to help. But as far as backer counts, I mean, like I said, I'm in the same boat as you are, sir. I'm like, I'm at it. I hit this glass ceiling, and sometimes we get a little bit above it, then we come back down, and then you get a little above it, and you come back down, and it's that crazy roller coaster. Like I said, revenue different. Whereas I would, obviously you're going to conventions, you're hitting some retail stores. I would say once the market settles, hopefully in the next 6 to 8 months, you could try the direct market. Right, but once it settles, because it's still in crazy land.
We have no idea what's going on with that direct market.
It's still in bonkers land,
No,
but it is a very, very viable market once it's solid. You understand? Like, I mean, I was in it for a long time back in the 90s. Played around a little bit with it, and I know other people who have, and it is viable. But the mess that it is now is just crazy. But it's going to take at least 6 to 8 months before it settles.
I agree.
Yeah. So yeah, and then the other thing is grants. Because if you're doing you have Samson, which is like a religious type comics. There's sometimes you can get grants, from certain communities that would help you out, to promote that type of artwork. That's I have one friend, I think or I should say one person I know that he's probably financed his entire comics line on that, getting grants.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you find out about such things?
I mean, see, it
depends on the community and the
right, because there are books that list them, but I mean, the last time I looked was Jesus Christ, it was in the 90s. So it was like, there were I had to go to the library, and there were books with all kinds of different organizations in it. And I'm pretty sure now if you start doing Google searches, you can probably find a bunch of different things, especially if it's educational. I was looking over a little bit of your campaigns. It looks a little bit religious. So, I mean, there might be some things that you can find within that community that will be able to help you out, So, like I said, finance, backers,
Well, JD, if you try just a little bit harder, no.
Why? I don't want to try hard enough.
That's just it. You're like, I'm stuck in this glass bubble that I don't want to push.
I don't need to push. I need a hammer. I need a hammer, some rocket fuel.
Oh man.
All right. So Ben, I hope that helped.
Yeah, it was interesting. Yeah. I definitely think about
give you something to think about. Mike, do you have a question or?
No, I'm good.
All right. So, real quick, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna pull up these campaigns and I'm gonna give you guys like 2 or 3 minutes to pitch us, and then we're gonna move on. All right.
Sounds good.
All right. We're gonna start with the Road to Oz. All right. So, Amin, what are we looking at? Talk to me.
Yeah. So you're looking at the Road to Oz Kickstarter. This is the chapter 2 of 4 about the story of how Saving Oz failed. First book, we talked about how Scarecrow got into Kansas. This second book talks about what's going on in Kansas, what happened to Scarecrow, and some other surprises that they're going to pay off in the next chapters and volumes. Right now, I'm currently at 114% funded, but do check out and be a backer because, like I mentioned, this chapter as well as the other one does have the exclusive six. Actually, it's going to be 8 pages on this one. 8-page exclusive story that's only available in the Kickstarter edition. Full color, so we're looking at about, I think right now my page count is going to be about 36 pages on this one. A ship worldwide. So if you're looking to kind of be a part of it, go ahead. And it honors still the books and movie of Oz, so you're not going to be completely thrown into nowhere land.
You're not going to be thrown into Oz.
All right, nice. You got 96 backers, 67 hours. You're already funded, which is good, but you're going to get some more cash in there. How many issues? 4-issue limited series?
Yeah, I'm aiming for a 4. I have 4 volumes each with four issues. So this is the first volume. So halfway through the first volume.
All right, very nice. Very nice. So it was looking good, and you're on your way. So one other question is release. I asked you this on the other show. I always ask the same question. Release schedule. What are you looking at?
Let me see. Book is fully colored. I am tweaking the lettering and script right now. And if it wasn't for the fact that I'll be traveling for 4 weeks straight, I probably would have it printed in my hands by the end of July. But at this point, I think it's going to be probably anywhere from mid-August, late August, and then by September, I'll be shipping it out. And then at that point, end of September, I'll start the Kickstarter for chapter 3.
Very nice. Very nice. Next up, we got Smokey Bear with no the, right?
That's it.
No the.
The Smokey Bear. Okay, so cool. So gentlemen,
the bear.
So gentlemen, please.
So, Smokey's Junior Rangers is the title of the book. It's an officially licensed Smokey property. It is the first Smokey Bear comic to come out since the 1970s. So it's kind of a big deal. But it takes a new adventure with Smokey, teaching kids about the safety of having a proper campfire.
Very
Mike,
nice.
if you have anything to add to that, go for it.
You do a wonderful job.
All right, cool.
We actually launch on July 8th, so 1 week from today we will launch this on Kickstarter.
Very nice.
You can get on here now and follow along, get notified the moment that this goes live.
All right, cool. Now, is this a 3-issue limited series, 4-issue limited series? What are you guys looking at?
We are going to be putting out as many issues of it as we can. We actually have story ideas for 3 issues so far, but each issue is going to be like a standalone story.
Gosh.
So you don't necessarily have to get issue 1 to enjoy issue number 2, if that makes sense.
Nope.
All right, cool. All right. I mean, do we get to see Smokey fighting pyromaniacs?
Sure.
Take that.
No, but this is actually really cool, man. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you.
But all right, cool. I mean, listen, man. I mean, you know, another 7 days you get to launch out. You got was there 400 people waiting for it online, so that's really good. So
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a boatload of followers, man.
I don't think you can have a problem funding.
It's a little bit above average for us.
No, you know, but that's good. It was, you know,
Yeah.
it shows there's a lot of interest.
We're on par.
Yeah. All right. Good. I mean, listen, man. 1 week, everybody, go sign up. All right.
Everybody.
Shit. Don't mind me. I'm screwing this up. All right. And we have the strong man himself, Samson.
So this is in late pledges right now. It's funded. Samson is the story of a young boy who during World War II is experimented on by the Nazis as part of their effort to make a super soldier. Instead, they create Samson, who becomes their greatest enemy. And this covers 50 years, as it spans 50 years as we follow him as both a boy, where he's being experimented on with his twin brother, and as an adult when he discovers, after the fall of the Berlin Wall, new information about the survival of certain Nazi super soldiers that he has to try and hunt down. And issue 1, he captures one of those soldiers. In issue 2, he's bringing him back to Israel to stand trial, you know, which is based on, you know, real historical events where the Israelis captured at least one of the Nazis and brought them back to Israel for trial in the 1960s. And of course, the experimenting on children is also historically accurate. With it, you know, and there's bonus features in the digital edition that talk about some of the historical figures who were involved in this, and you know, 2 of the scientists are basically based on real Nazi doctors. So you can see some of the bonuses here. We kind of did a Supergirl inspired variant cover, and we did a Jack Kirby inspired variant cover. That one's the Kirby style cover. In fact, the base cover is also inspired by a Frank Wheatley cover as well. Mm-hmm. If you go to the top of the page, there's actually a link there that will let you read issue 1 for free. So you can see it, try before you buy, basically, see if you like it. Yeah, right there. Don't have to sign up for my email list for this. I just let people, you know, try it out if they want. Everybody's going to get that print that inspired again by Alex Ross, Superman. And I'm going to keep the late pledge open for another day or so. So if anybody wants to sign up, there's still a little time to do so. And you can get the back issues. You can get all my back issues. And like I said, I try to price my back issues and my other comic books very reasonably because I really want people to get all my books.
All right, cool. Now, how do you find the late pledges working for you? Is it working for you? Do you find you've got a little?
You know, you get a little bit. I get, you know, a couple backers, you know, two, 3 backers, you know, and then, you know, usually right after the day or so after, because people miss the campaign, even though you advertise it endlessly to them. There's always somebody who normally backs you who somehow missed it and didn't do it.
Oh, snap, I missed it.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, it's a small amount, but it's something. So there's no downside to it really that I see.
That's cool. And Right now, this is issue 2.
Yeah, this is issue 2.
So is it a limited series or are you ongoing?
It's going to go at least 8 issues, I think. It could go longer, but yeah, it's going to follow him all the way. It's a fairly long time span that I'm covering with this, and it's going to follow him to closer to the present day, and depending how popular it is, I'll just keep going it. But I do kind of have a storyline I'm telling to work through that would be 8 issues. And like I said, if it grows and builds, I'd keep it going longer.
All right, cool. Oh, man, well, obviously you're already funded.
Right, yeah.
But listen, everybody can still back it, so go grab it.
Great.
Go grab it. Yeah, all right, cool. Nice. You got 172 backers, pretty healthy.
Yeah, I think that's where I was talking about my relatively low, backer, payment per backer amount per backer is on the low side for that, but for that number of backers, but that's kind of what I'm getting.
Gotcha. Just got to raise your prices. Listen, sometimes that's all it is.
Not wrong actually.
Especially these days, everything costs more.
Everything costs more. People are used to it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, gentlemen, we've made it to the hour and a half for a little bit past. So, thank you so much. This was awesome. Let's start with James. Where can we find you and your work, sir?
Go to drenproductions.com.
All right. Cool. Ben?
Bitingcomics.com.
All right. There you go. Mike?
You can do drenproductions.com, cyberstudiosinc.com as well.
Nice. Amin?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at AAMAT. That's Amin Amat, very, very short. You can also find me on Facebook at the Road to Oz comic and the Road to Oz, as well as just look me up as Amin Amat on Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, TikTok, you name it. I'm all over the place.
Gotcha. Hold on real quick. We're going to pull it up because I missed it because I suck as a host.
I slipped it at the end there.
All right. So you got a couple of minutes, Mike. What do we got?
Yeah, no problem. I'll take barely anything. The Sire is about a superhero forced by his own costume to fight evil. It's been around almost 20 years now, and I've been slowly picking up the pace with the chapters. We got a Kickstarter going on right now. In Sire Aftermath, everything the Sire thought he knew about what was going on gets flipped on its head when it turns out that the alien life form that is ready to evolve humanity might not be telling the truth about its intentions. Has the Sire been the bad guy this entire time? That's what Aftermath kind of deals with. And we got a Kickstarter going on right now. Will Torres did an awesome Sire Todd McFarlane homage variant cover for me. I gave him one of his first breaks actually a long time ago, and he's been doing stuff for Marvel, and he was just in the latest issue of Spawn as well too. So he has graced a cool cover for us as well too. And we've unlocked some stretch goals. Sire's my baby, and it's fun to just keep the storyline going. And that's it.
How many issues you up to so far?
This is a total be 15 now.
Nice. Very nice. All right, cool. Looks good. All right. Well, you've already funded. You got 40 hours to go. So yeah, hopefully.
You want that 50th backer. Come on, 50th backer.
Listen, get to 75. Damn it. That's what we want. 175.
That's it. I like it.
All right.
You got time. You just hit that 48-hour mark. People are gonna be trickling in.
I know. Yep.
All right, Rob. So we're up to you. Where can we find you in your work, sir?
Yeah. You can find me at lonewolfcomics.com on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, all the other places because I have at Lone Wolf Comics there. But you can find me personally on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Rob Multari. You can go to the pre-launch page for Snowpaw issues 1 through 4, snowpod.com, snowpod.lonewolfcomics.com.
And I'm JD Calderon. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those different places. Currently, I have the Oswald Chronicles running on Kickstarter. I didn't bother pulling it up because it's in the links. So everyone, please go check out the show notes. Go check out the links. As everybody's books in there. please support these creators. They're all doing great work and they all deserve your support. So please click on those links, buy those books, and just remember, read more indie comics, especially ours. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.